little loud in here. What did you say? Hold on. Hey, SonicBlu Darkful. What? Hey, speak up, Sonic. SonicBlu Darkfold here for Cooking with SonicBlu, and I am making something with chocolate pudding and cake. I'm going to see about a little experiment tonight, so I'm going to see if it'll work. What I have in this bowl here is 6 boxes of chocolate pudding. 5 of them were prepared according to the box's instructions, but I added an extra one in here to make the pudding a lot thicker. And as you can see, you can take your rubber spatula and stick it in the end of it, and it'll stand up. You know it's thick enough. And it don't taste too bad either. Look at that. Look at how thick that is. Good stuff. Alright, so what we're going to do with this stuff here is we are going to make a pudding cake. This was one of the ideas I had for our Christmas special, but it never got made. So for that, with a little extra preparation, I decided to prepare it for this very moment in time. So we will come over here and get our cake batter and prepare it according to the box's instructions. We'll be needing 2 large mixing bowls for this. One of them is for the pudding, the other one's for the cake mix. Now, putting in the box, I'm going to need 3 eggs, 1/2 cup of soybean oil, but you can use vegetable oil, or just as long as you don't use olive oil, because we're not making an Italian cake. You know what I'm talking about? Talk to Mama Michelina, because she always makes it with Italian spice and stuff. Alright, so what we're going to do, go ahead and empty the contents of this bag without getting it all over the place into the bowl. For all you chocolate lovers, this is chocolate cocaine. You don't even need to mix this with anything. Just get out a nice straw and there you go. Because I know quite a few people who would do something that strange and snort powdered cocoa like it was nothing. SonicBlu gets an idea. Ooh, that actually felt good. Oh, don't think I do cocaine. I don't. In fact, I don't do any kind of drugs. Anytime I don't advocate the use of any drugs. I don't suggest anybody else does either. I just wanted to make a spectacle of myself. So, let's get the extra ingredients. Ow. Watch out for the microwave too. This is a brand new place too. Take a look around. This is our kitchen. And this is our pantry. And we're in the process now of rebuilding it. This is what the shelves used to look like. Get a shot of this. You know how they bevel down like that? And all these shelves were just like this, where they were all buckling down. So we decided to get some nice oak wood shelving. And as you can see, it's not coming all the way out. Which means that this comes out further than this. So everything was in crooked. We're going to rebuild this thing. In goes the oil. Ooh, look at that. This is sweet stuff in the making. Doesn't it look good when somebody prepares something like this? Okay, here goes the eggs. Here's one. Okay, here's number 2. And the 3rd one.
You're out.
Strikes you out.
Pay no attention to Key, but behind the camera. I'm not the one holding it.
Now notice that the pudding from our previous mix job is still on the beaters. We're going to use this in the cake too. That's the beauty part about working with cake of the same flavor. There go the eggs. Once you got that all mixed in, just as you can get it. Not to mention that, not to forget the water, and I need a 1.5. Okay, once you get this kind of mixed in a bit, we're going to go ahead and add our water, 1 1/3 cup. And now, mix it a little more. Turn this back on using the lowest setting. I did forget water, but I caught myself, so I wouldn't have to forget. And we need the assistance of that, and notice we still have pudding on that. That's okay too. That's going right into the batter as well. I make the pudding first, then your cake batter, so that way all of your chocolate gets mixed together in one big flavor. I'm going to use this to get all the extra powder and clumps out of it, so you can continue to stir it in and beat that in there with the batter. You want to beat this for about 2 minutes or until it's smooth. And a nice good mixing. You'll notice that it will start to ribbon up like this. You see the ribbon effect? It's almost done. Pull it up slowly so that way much of it goes off and back into your bowl again. Once you're completely out of the batter, set it down. There you go. Alright, let's take a look. Very bubbly. Stupid. Okay. Very, very bubbly, but also very, very runny too. So I'm hoping that that kind of firms up when we bake this at 350 degrees according to the box. It says preheat oven to 350. So let's go ahead and do that on our brand new oven. Gotta get used to doing that. Okay, these come out of there. Okay, we're going to use a standard cake pan, but we're going to pre-grease it beforehand. So in order to do that, we need our Crisco dough. That's the only problem with having an open pantry like this, is like you never know where anything is. Okay, I need Crisco, and if you don't have any Crisco, if you just can't find the dang stuff, then butter or margarine will work as well, just as long as you take flour and you kind of coat it with that. I don't see my Crisco. Ah! Didn't we leave that behind for dark?
Maybe.
I think we did. So, that's okay. We got the next best thing, margarine. What you're going to do is, if you don't have any Crisco, that's okay. All you need is just flour and margarine. I'm going to cut, for a pan that size, I'm going to go ahead and cut 1 tablespoon to start off with. There you go. Usually use a cutting board, but you know, why dirty a cutting board when you don't have to, right? Okay, stick that right in the middle there. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to want to melt that just a little bit. So, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn on the burner here. Look at the stove, flat. See? And look at that, ooh, pretty. Okay, now we're just going to let this sit here for just a little bit. And there you go, the butter will start to melt a little bit so you can actually butter your pan the way it needs to be. Just be careful though when you're working with heat. You know you're working with heat. Be very careful with what you do. Since we're turning it on really low, all we need is the heat to help melt the butter a bit. Just kind of go like this, tap it just a little bit around like that, and then take it and shake it, just like that. You remember how I showed you how to do this when we made the awesome cake of awesomeness? You remember that? Well, since we don't have any Crisco and I have to get some more before I do any, show you how to make my buckeyes. That's another awesome recipe. I'll definitely need Crisco for that. But we make do with what we have. And for this, we make do with butter. Now get your sides. This will ensure that the butter won't cook into the cake, and that your cake will come up slick, smooth, easy, and no fuss, no muss. Let's take a little bit of spoon there off the side there, kind of run around the edge like that. You'll get flour all over the place, but that's what a sponge is for. If you don't have a sponge in your house, then you're not clean. And you shouldn't really be doing any cooking if you don't have any sponges in your house. Then you should go and get microwave foods, which it actually helps out in the long run, but I prefer to make full-blown meals, but that's just me. There is a nicely greased and dusted cake pan. And we're going to kind of pour that in. And we're going to need an extra box to make the second layer, but that's okay. We'll show you how to do that. Okay, now use the rubber spatula and get all of that in. Actually, let me show it to you from this angle so it's easier to film. Okay, get the rubber spatula, just kind of work it around the edge here like that. Get it to run down one side of the bowl here. So you want to get as much of the cake batter as possible. Rubber spatula works wonders in the kitchen, especially when you're baking. Okay. we're going to make 2 layers of this, and we really need 2 of these cake pans, but since we only have the one, we're going to have to improvise on this part. And you're not going to get every single little drop, but try to get as much as you can. And that should just about do that. Alright, now we're going to preheat our oven. Okay, now we're going to set our temperature for, yeah, it's already set, 350 by default. Hit that big, no, hit that start button, there we go. Now that preheats it. I like this oven because it tells you when to put something in and when it's still preheating. Okay, now you got this lovely mix of pudding and cake batter all in one. Do I dare to mix the 2 together into one flavor? Well, I'm making the cake, so let's see how this will taste. Some for Kiba. That's good. Once that oven is ready, we're going to go ahead and bake that first layer of cake. Then when it's done, we're going to pull it, and this layer is going to go on the bottom. Now what we're going to do when it's done cooking is you'll notice that there will be a nice dome effect on your cake. We're going to level that off by cutting the very top of it so there's a nice flat square cake. And then do the same, well, when we cook the other one, we'll go ahead and leave it domed. But we're going to set this on the bottom, then we're going to get a top layer. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to put the top layer, excuse me, actually what we're going to do is we're going to put the bottom layer down first. And then we're going to take this strip of cardboard or construction paper, and we're going to work it the way around the circumference of the cake. And this is going to hold our pudding in until it firms up. And once it's firm, then we're going to take the top layer, put it over on top of that. So then you'll have pudding cake. I'll show you how to do that. And like I said, this is an experiment. I've never done this before. I just know my way around the kitchen so that I can ensure that that pudding is not going to run all over the place. And I made it extra thick too. Now let me show you how I made the pudding. Now I still have 2 boxes of this pudding left, but you can find pudding pretty much anywhere. You can find, yeah, I found this at the Dollar Tree. Easy place. And what I've done is I've gotten a large mixing bowl. You want to get something nice and big. And this is 6 boxes of instant chocolate pudding. And the 5, I followed the directions of the box, which requires 2 cups of milk for every box. And I added an extra box without adding the extra 2 cups of milk to make sure that it stays thick. And this is going to go in the middle. And look how thick that is. Just look at that. It's slowly running down. And this is not even chilled. This is about the thickness you want. Oh, hello. Yes, I'm now stirring up what might look like frosting. It's the pudding. This is the pudding that's going to go in the middle of our cake. Now, as you can see by looking at our cake over here, this is going to be the bottom layer. And the store, I forgot, while we were out at the store, I forgot to pick up an extra box of cake batter. So I went to the corner store thinking that they had cake batter there, and they didn't exactly have cake batter, they had cake flour. I had to add more ingredients to that, and ingredients I didn't even have. So I went with the next best thing and got some brownie mix. So this bottom layer, since brownie doesn't rise like cake does, I'm going to use this for the bottom layer because we don't have to level it out. This here is our construction paper barrier. This is a wall that we built so that way we can hold the pudding in as it firms up. And then when it's nice and firm, then we can lay that top layer over on top of it. But this has to really be firm. So what we're going to do now is we are going to place the pudding right in here so that it'll firm nice and good. You have to spread it out evenly. And best to get your pudding as thick as possible. Now when it's firm, and before we frost it, that construction paper wall is going to come right off of there. And hopefully will retain the shape of your cake. So into the refrigerator it goes. And this will need to stay uncovered too, so that way it'll get as firm as possible. Hey stud! Fabulous Fox here. Wait a minute, I'm not fabulous. Hey, this is SonicBlu Darkfold show, not the fabulous Fabio the Flaming Fox show. And we're about ready to take a look at our cake. It's been sitting there overnight, so the pudding ought to be nice and firm. So let's check to see the firmness. Ooh, you check that firmness. Shut up. Ooh, look at that. See, what we ended up doing is I ended up putting the top layer on after it started getting firmed. And 2 hours in the refrigerator, I put the top layer over it and then set it in there overnight, and we're about ready to reveal how our center looks. Let's go ahead and remove the toothpicks. And then very carefully remove, and hopefully it stays intact. You're going to get a nice film around the edge, but that's okay. And there you have it. Pull it gently away, all the way around. Now this was what was keeping that one layer up, and we're going to see how well. Now remember, this is an experiment, so if this falls all over the place and if it doesn't work out, then don't do this at home. This is just a new idea that I had in my head, and voila! Chocolate pudding cake.
And I forgot the light.
That's quite alright. You got chocolate pudding, the cake. Now you need to frost it. I went ahead and got the white frosting. So we're going to take our trusty rub your spatula here, and we're going to frost this cake before anything else happens to it. I went with the white frosting mainly because you don't want to have too much chocolate in there, because let's face it, too much is never enough, but you know, this was a suggestion from my roommate, so I went with the white. Otherwise I would have done death by chocolate cake, and that would have involved this. But when you do frost a cake, make sure you get plenty of this stuff. If you're not sure how much to get for a 2-layer cake, get 3 just to be on the safe side, because you never know, you might be shuffling back to the store. Look how gooey that is. Look at that. And try to cover it up as best as possible. Okay, that corner is really bugging me. I gotta put a little extra dab on there and kind of smooth it around. Yeah. Okay, go straight up and over. Make sure this is all even, going up straight, starting from the bottom and going up over the top. Excuse me, straight. We never do things straight around here. Okay, go gaily up. And as you can see, cake is starting to come together nicely. Now, did we get everything? Let's see. Let's go on straight up through this side, because I don't think I've done this side yet. No. Completely covered. Ah, it's starting to come out. Ah, you're starting to come out. Okay, working with frosting on this type of cake is very challenging. Very challenging. And I'll need an extra dab right just for that gap. And just cover it up nicely. And you'll definitely want to put this in the refrigerator and let it chill. And remember, you never ever frost a cake when it's warm. Pudding cake. Tune in next time for the Cooking with SonicBlu show, and I'm going to show you some fish recipes. But first I'm going to enjoy some cake.
For complete recipes, send an email to sonicblu@yahoo.com. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you're not cooking good, you're not eating good. Bye for now.